Welcome everyone to Token Topics. XPR is a topic. There has been some explosive news for XPR, now rebranded to XPRNetwork. With a new look, XPR is now ISO20022 Compliant. That is awesome. We're going to dive into that. Also check out the new look, the new proposal, and words from Marshall himself. So if you're an XPR fan, you don't want to miss this. To let everybody know, I am not paid for or sponsored by the XPR network or Metallicus. Let's go ahead and dive in. The Proton blockchain has a new name and look. Introducing XPRNetwork, and it's looking sharp. Hello world, let's go ahead and check out the new website look. Here's the new look. It looks fantastic. Very sharp, nice and clear, easy to read. I love that logo. Colors just match well. XPRNetwork is a layer 1 proof-of-stake blockchain that leverages cutting-edge WebAssembly, smart contracts to enable high-performance, scalable, and sustainable computation. Developers can leverage XPRNetwork to easily and securely build tokens, NFTs, exchanges, lending markets, and much more. Nice presentation, straight to the point. Now that XPR is ISO 20022 compatible, that just opens up a huge avenue of possibilities. Working with the system truly will benefit holders in the long run. Check out these different features under Metallicus and the XPRNetwork. You have fiat on-ramps with direct fiat deposits to the XPRNetwork with Metal Pay, advanced trading, liquidity pools, over-the-counter direct swap yield farming. All these features are very lovable, but I love direct swaps with zero gas fees. I mean, that is a game changer. If you're interested in the XPRNetwork, I highly recommend that you read through the developer bounties. Now, I'm letting listeners and viewers know that I've been using the WebAuth wallet for a while now, and it is very secure. It's so smooth. Very exciting to announce that XPR is ISO 20022 compatible. That is a huge deal. And for those who think it's not a big deal, that's ridiculous because the whole new financial system is being upgraded to the new ISO 20022 messaging standard. Now, we know that it's not just about crypto, but crypto, or digital assets rather, does have a significant role. Of course, it's upgrading the whole messaging standard, but the fact that digital assets are part of this upgrade is indeed in itself significant. So basically, out of the thousands and thousands of projects out there, there is only a handful that can even lift their head and say that they're ISO 20022 compatible. So that speaks volumes. And these financial institutions are looking for blockchain projects that are doing it the right way, that are KYC compliant, that they're working with banks, they're working with regulators, they're trying to work with the government. Even when you have a shady agency like the SEC, Metallicus is doing what they can. Now, I'm speaking specifically to the XPR community. All right, you're always going to have people that are going to try to rain on your parade. There's always going to be people that say, "Oh, big deal," or this or that. Just keep moving forward. Stay the course. We know what we hold as XPR holders. Now, if you've been subscribed to the channel, I've gone over the ISO 20022 upgrade quite a bit actually, and we're seeing it progressively being implemented. And we really need people to think outside the box. There's going to be people that are going to see what Metallicus offers and all the different financial tools, which under one umbrella, that is perfect fit for their needs. But then there's going to be other large enterprises that they might already be doing work with Ripple, and then there's also Stellar. Then we have Zinfin's supply chain. So basically, when these financial institutions, when they're shopping around, they're going to see the different benefits that Metallicus provides and their flagship blockchain with XPRNetwork. And we have heard of all the different future features that Marshall wants to bring to the XPRNetwork. Automated taxes, real-time employee pay, that for payroll. I mean, that's just a couple of ideas. Imagine the things that are not thought of yet, that when this is all functioning, that there's going to be more ideas that are going to come, is what I'm saying. This is truly an achievement. This is very exciting. let's be reminded, everybody, that if you follow bad community leaders, you become just like them. And that's very true. You know, I think it's a good idea for everybody to try to get along. I know that there's differences in opinions, different blockchain projects, but I don't look at it as a competitive sport. I'm investing money, personally. The truth is that I believe in all these blockchain projects, these ones that are leading, that I think that are leading, actually, the new financial system, the new digital economy and tokenization, if somebody wants me to get specific. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I've seen a lot of people from the XPR community take a lot of heat from people either part of or supporting other blockchain projects. And I just think it's childish. Are we not here to help evolve the payment space and to make money? You know, the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to be the bigger person, not to retaliate, not to say anything. All that's going to do is cause more potential backlash and stress, not only on the project, but other community members. Just ignore them. That's the best thing to do. If somebody has something rude to say, that's their problem, not yours. Be mature. Now, if you try to create the peace and keep the peace and protect your other fellow community members and keep what's in the best interest of the project, then you know what? You're more of a leader than you know. And nobody has to give you a title to say that you're a leader. This is exciting news, XPR holders. Check this out. Blockworks and Permissionless submitted a proposal on the XPRNetwork governance dashboard. How cool is that? The submission, if it passes, we're going to see Metallicus represent XPRNetwork with network event sponsorship and a booth at Permissionless. Well, it did pass, and that is good news. With 95%, the overwhelming majority passes yes. So let's look more into this. So this proposal, we're going to see the XPR blockchain strategically positioned at Permissionless this year, a leading industry conference in Austin, Texas from September 11th to the 13th. And they're going to secure a 10 by 10 branded booth space through a gold level sponsorship, providing a distinguished presence and a platform to engage with potential partners and influencers. That's huge. I'm sure there's going to be good things that come out of this. This is when you build the connections in the pipelines in the future. All right, let's first hear from Marshall on how he sees the future for Metallicus and the XPR network.
And we can make the statement like Metallicus is successful. What does that look like? Like, where does Metallicus stand in that vision that you have, that you're confident that we're going?
Yeah, so Metallicus's vision is to become the world's most customer-centric global digital asset banking network. And that's kind of a mouthful, but the idea is to become a digital asset banking network that's connected to every bank in the world, and to kind of replace some of the older systems that are slow or antiquated, to reduce fraud and friction and payments. And so for us, what would be the big sign of success? It would be a metal connection and integration, metal ecosystem integration into every bank and payment processor.
Every bank is their goal, not just a few, not just a particular objective. Every single bank. Now, how do we get people on board? How do we create trust? How do we allow their traditional banking system incorporate blockchain and crypto or digital assets? Let's see what Marshall has to say.
With the recent distrust in the financial and banking system, I think there's this natural narrative in crypto that crypto is anti-banking. So how do you start to mend the trust and prove to people that crypto and banking is actually the future?
Yeah, when I first discovered Bitcoin in 2009, it took me about 2 weeks to really understand it, because my mind immediately went to, all right, well, there's some sort of way that this plugs in with, it took maybe not 2 weeks, but for the first week or so, I just didn't really get it. I was like, so how do we transact with it? And, so I'm going to send you this unit, but then how does that turn into cash? And that's where the aha moment occurred after I started to research it. And it's funny because it's almost like an alchemical process in your own mind where you started wait, what is money anyways? Right? We just assumed for so long, this is just, you just take it for granted, but you don't really think too much about where money comes from or where it goes to. And so the early ethos of Bitcoin had actually sprung out of, decades of research of cryptographic research. And in the 90s, they had already attempted, when I say they, a lot of the same people who were involved in the origins of Bitcoin had already attempted this, right? So Adam Back is one of those people, Hal Finney, all these people were when I was a teenager, they were in those news groups and those hacker news groups. Mm-hmm. So when I discovered Bitcoin, I recognized a lot of names like, oh, these people have been working on this stuff for a long time. DigiCash was one of the early attempts at that. There were multiple attempts at digital currency early on, something called Flues. Oprah Winfrey endorsed it.
I remember that. Yep.
There were a bunch of attempts, but nothing really took off because they couldn't solve the decentralization problem, the trilemma, right? Security, scalability, speed. They couldn't solve we couldn't solve the trilemma of crypto. Also, the other issues were we had issues with the Byzantine general consensus problem, right? The fault tolerance. How do you know that your crypto has not? How do you know that somebody can't essentially counterfeit it, right? How do we know somebody can't double spend your cryptocurrency? And the blockchain really solved those problems. So in the early days, there was certainly what we called the cypherpunk movement that was anti-banking. It was, in the first Bitcoin Genesis block, there is a hash in there from Satoshi. Banks on the brink of bailout for the second time, says Chancellor of the UK. And, this was around 2008 with the financial global financial crisis that sprung up through mortgages and unscrupulous lending practices, and which collapsed a lot of banks and industry. Ultimately, Bitcoin kind of sprung out of this as an answer to, an anti-banking movement, I would say in some ways. But ultimately, isn't it just an evolution of that? Because at the end of the day, let's say all of your financial dreams come true, and you have $100 million or $1 billion or something. You never have to worry about money ever again. But let's say it's all in Bitcoin or even stable coins, right? Are you going to keep it in a ledger under your mattress? Your house burns down, somebody steals it, somebody, the good old fashioned wrench method. Somebody just tapes you to a chair and beats you with a wrench until you give them your seed phrase, right? Banks exist for security, for services. There are a lot of reasons why you would want to have an entity to help you manage, secure, and control your cash and your assets, especially if you had a lot. Especially if you wanted to build a trust for your kids or future generations, things like that. So there are a lot of services around Bitcoin or around potential to build around blockchain. Originally, the thought was you're going to be your own bank, but even given the technology at scale, even if you only have $20 to your name, okay, at that point, well, it's not so big of a deal, right? But being your own bank can be pretty scary, especially if you had significant assets.
All right, now I'm going to play a clip where we're going to hear Marshall Hayner explain about the use case, potential, and future of this technology.
So same thing, the speed at which contracts can get signed, the speed at which markets can emerge, and these payments can be made, it's huge. And yeah, you can say, well, the traditional system's pretty good. I could send a wire to you right now in the US and it will arrive in a few hours. Well, could it arrive in under a second? Right. And what's the ratio of a few hours to a second, and the probability of not knowing, maybe it won't arrive today. That's cannot be underestimated. And I've gotten a lot of flack for saying this, but it won't be Bitcoin. It won't be some commodity-based currency because we don't necessarily make payments to each other in gold or things like that. That may be payments between machines or payments within a DAO or things like that. But stable coins will dominate the future of blockchain payments. And so what this looks like in 20 years from now is going to be that the evolution of Real Player to Spotify and YouTube Music. It's going to be just a completely different animal that's, there are no fees. It's 10,000 times faster. Remember when we used to pay for text messages?
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
oh, it's like 10 cents. Oh, I'm out of my text message time zone between, 7 p.m. and midnight or, 6 a.m. I get free text messages.
Yeah.
Right. Can
And
you imagine
limited characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Long distance telephone calls, paying 99 cents per song. Paying 99 cents per song reminds me kind of like paying 99 cents to send crypto, Yeah. Same thing.
Very impressive. Now, Marshall has incredible connections. He's worked with Facebook, the Stellar Development Foundation, Dogecoin, to name a few.
Did want to really quickly, went a little bit ahead. I wanted to go back to that point where you had worked on other blockchain projects before starting your own company, right? And I was wondering if you could walk me through your decision to leave those teams. Was it an urge that you just wanted to try your own things, or like how difficult was it to leave other teams that are doing passion projects and to kind of just go start your own?
It's difficult, but I would say that it was like sometimes something in life, you go through cycles and different phases of your life where you're, when you're young, you're in school. When you're older, you get a job, and then you have kids, and and so everybody goes through kind of like these phases. And my phases in cryptocurrency was the first few years was just me playing. So before I worked with any company or anything like that, I just wanted to be involved, and I wanted to prove that I could send you Bitcoin from the West Coast to the East Coast, or from United States to Europe, and you could actually turn that into money, and vice versa. Right. So I was there, P2P trading and hanging out in internet relay chat, the early days of Bitcoin. This is pre altcoins. The first altcoins emerging around like 2011. There were some other, maybe late 2010. I can't remember, around that time. Barbecue coin, Lucky coin, Litecoin, Pure coin, Prime coin, some of the first
Which you
ones.
could only get with BTC.
Yes. Yeah. So this is pre-stable coins. In the beginning, everything was paired to Bitcoin. So that's one of the things that really helped grow the Bitcoin liquidity over the years was, back in the day, when you get listed, it's a BTC to, the asset that's being listed. So if you're building a project, that would be your counterpart. Now, I don't think anybody gets BTC listings. Everything is stable coin pretty much. There are altcoin pair listings. They tend to be low liquidity and low volume, right? My interest started with QuickCoin. That was my first crypto startup. Conceived that idea in 2012. Met my co-founder, found a co-founder in 2013, and started building. Launched that by 2014. And QuickCoin was a simple app to use Bitcoin. So my first few years of using crypto, I was experimenting with it, trying to prove that it was real money, that we could use it and, play with it. And then I realized one of the biggest problems was there's just no good software. All of the software is just, I don't want to say trash, but it was kind of trash compared to what you see in the App Store, because the App Store had launched a few years earlier, and, Steve Jobs and, Apple had really evolved, apps at that point. And so when the idea came around that I'm going to use this thing that is desktop only, that doesn't make sense. So that was the first thing. And then there aren't really many good web apps. Blockchain.info, which is now blockchain.com, was one of the very first Bitcoin web wallets that was pretty popular and pretty good. But even that got hacked and had early issues. I can remember the Joho hack, for those that were around. The random number generator wasn't strong enough. There were, lots of crazy early hacks with wallets, and there weren't any good mobile app wallets. And so I just wanted to make Bitcoin easy to use in a way that anyone could just create a Bitcoin wallet and send it. And so I came up with this idea to make a simple, easy to use wallet we called QuickCoin. So get your coin quick, send it quick. And this is back in the day when everything had the word coin or bit in the name if you were a company. So Coinbase, BitPay, QuickCoin. This is, the early days of crypto. And so, we came up with this idea to connect it to Facebook and generate a hierarchical deterministic wallet, an HD wallet, but using the Facebook social graph. So one of the keys was basically based around your Facebook login, and it wasn't perfect, but the idea was that it was like a petty cash wallet. So like what you keep in your back pocket. So maybe you keep 20 or $100 and you don't keep your life savings in this wallet, but also the concept was tipping and payments between friends. So one morning I logged into Facebook and QuickCoin had really taken off. My whole Facebook feed was people quick coining each other. So as I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed, I'm seeing, my mom, my grandmother, and, my family. And I'm like, oh, if they're doing this, then that's a really good sign, because
like Venmo today almost.
Exactly. Like Venmo today.
Now you can see the idea and the direction that he wanted to go.
Venmo today. And Facebook shut it down pretty quickly. But they couldn't, for whatever reason, due to their policy, the API keys that were created at that time were grandfathered in for some period of time. So Facebook changed their the social graph, so you could no longer wall post between each other with the app, and I caused that to happen. The other thing, because they loved it when it was Candy Crush doing it, and they make all this percentage, but they hate it when Bitcoin was doing it because they're not making any money off it. And I kind of had accidentally front run their plan for payments with Facebook Messenger. So Facebook Messenger had just started to demo payments for some users in 2013 or 2014. And so then they shut that down. And, like most startups, I had kind of the early co-founder dispute, didn't agree with that founder who I had brought in. I ended up leaving QuickCoin, and that's where I got really interested in Dogecoin, and I ended up joining Stellar. And the interest in Dogecoin was really kind of my frustration with crypto becoming so commoditized and commercialized, where we used to be a bunch of nerds kind of talking about building things. The Bitcoin meetups and crypto meetups had become overrun with price speculators and people that just wanted to show up to be like, where do you think this coin is going? And can you sell me at a discount or whatever? And it had just become less developer-y. There were less devs. And there was also a feeling of hopelessness because Bitcoin had risen around this time in 2014, had risen all the way up to about $1,400, and then all the way back down to 165.
So Marshall is a key developer for Dogecoin. He also worked with Stellar. Incredible connections. Very, very interesting. Elon's favorite crypto of all time is Doge. There's also a Stellar connection, but that's going to be for another video. Stay tuned.
Marion, our CTO, and through Jackson, through the founder of Dogecoin, he connected me with Jed McCaleb and Joyce Kim, who had started a company called a foundation called Stellar Development Foundation, which was the fork of Ripple. Jed had created Ripple. And he also had a disagreement with the founders and left to create Stellar. And so when we connected, we instantly hit it off because I had a similar experience. And, Jed shared his story with me, and my story was very similar, and said, how would you like to come work with me and change the world? We'll pick up where you left off with QuickCoin, and we'll rebuild it and we'll redo it, and we'll do it with Stellar instead of Bitcoin, XLM, STR at the time. And I was like, yeah, this is great. So I went there. I was only there for like 3 or 4 months before I left. The reason why I ended up leaving and how I left was really just I wanted to build that. That was my baby. That idea was like, it was bigger than just an idea. It was a thing that had to come alive through some way or another. And so when I was at Stellar, we started to build it out, but I didn't really own the product. My role was community, but technically I was like support, product development, marketing, social media management. I was doing all these things. And, at one point, there was a mention of, so we launched the Stellar wallet, which was kind of very similar to QuickCoin. It used your Facebook, it was identical, but we took it further and we gamified it. So you did these little tasks and you earned more Stellar. And it had several million users on it. It was really kind of growing. And then the team within the first year decided, okay, we're going to shut it down. We're just going to open source and let other people build. And that was like this, like, it was like an arrow to my heart, right? Because it was like, this is what I want to build. And I remember Jed approached me and was like, you're going to go build it, aren't you? And I was like, I am. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll see you later. And it was an emotional day. I remember I cried and I was like, oh man, this is, I don't want to leave this team, but I have to do this. I have to go build this thing.
So there you have it. He saw an area he wanted to specialize in.
I want to leave this team, but I have to do this. And then I got an even further taste where it was great because I wasn't the CEO and I got to learn from another CEO in crypto and a legend in the space. And I really, really appreciate that because I learned so much during that time in this like little micro crash course of 120 days. But when I stepped out of that, I went back to a friend of mine who I had met in the Dogecoin space, Atif Nazir, and I ended up briefly working for a company called Block.io. And Atif was building the kind of like the primary block explorer. It was called Chain.so. It's still around, and Block.io. And I joined this team because I wanted to build infrastructure. I wanted to learn more about crypto security. His background was cryptography and computer science. And so I joined that team and I started working on building custody APIs. And so the ability to build your own wallet. Funny story, that product ultimately was, in the beginning, early days, was more of a wallet than it was a dev tool because there just weren't so many devs. Dogechain.info was the original Dogecoin web wallet, and that was built by Glenn Marion. And so Atif acquires this company, and I meet this guy, Glenn. And I had known him like through the Dogecoin community, but we didn't really know each other until we started working together. And then we spent several months offboarding those users from Dogechain.info into Block.io. And that's where Glenn and I spent every day together talking, sending each other. We would communicate in like GIFs and memes. I was like, man, this guy's really cool. I really like this guy. And he showed me some, stuff that he was working on. He had an idea, I've got this passion project to make kind of like a BitPay for Dogecoin or something like that, or like a BitPay competitor. And a few months after working there, I just approached Glenn and said, what do you think? I have this idea, it was originally called QuickCoin, and then it went to Stellar, and then I came here and I met you. And, if there were ever a hacker and hustler team together, I think, we could come together. I could be the hustler, you could be the hacker.
Very cool. Very, very cool. If you'd like to watch the whole video, I'm going to put the link to it in the description. Keep your crypto safe with a decent biometric hardware wallet. With talks about cyber attacks or exchanges going down, it's imperative to keep your assets safe. And just know with Decent, your private keys are your private keys and only you have access to them. In the description below, I'm going to put affiliate links where you can receive $30 off the retail price. There's also a 2-wallet package deal that's a great value. There's no need to wait. Order your wallet and keep your crypto safe now. Well, everybody, that's all I have for the video. I hope you did enjoy the content. If you did, or if you're an XPR fan, do subscribe so you can stay up to date.